Hello everyone, and welcome to Priest Verified. My name is Father Michael Aguino, and I'm a teacher at Cristo Rey, Tampa, in Florida. Today we are going to continue our conversation about the Incarnation, as covered in the USCCB Bishop's Framework for High School Students. To my students, make sure you take notes. Growing up, I had the ability and the opportunity to meet my grandfather and to be able to sit with him and to listen to the stories that he would tell us. He would gather us on the front steps, or what we would call a stoop, and he would tell us stories about life, the neighborhood, family, how things were. And it was really interesting. He just had a captivating personality about him. And storytellers not only pass on the stories of their communities, they provide insights into the meaning and purpose of life. Some have even referred to the Gospels as the greatest story ever told. Another way that we tell stories is by writing poems or in poetry. And I'm going to share with you a video in a moment. This is by James Allen Francis, and it's entitled One Solitary Life. And you may say, where does that come from? Well, if you've ever heard of the Rockettes, they're the girls that in New York, and they kick their legs very, very high in the air, and they put on the Radio City Spectacular. Well, at the very end of the Rockettes' performance, they have this poem read. And so we're going to check that out right now.
He was born in an obscure village, a child of a peasant woman. He was brought up in another obscure village where he worked in a carpenter shop until he was 30. Then for 3 brief years, he was an itinerant preacher. He gathered a group of friends about him, and he taught them his way of life. He had no credentials but himself. He was proclaiming a message and living a life. He never wrote a book. He never held an office. He never raised an army. He never married or had a family of his own. He never owned a home. He never went to college. He never traveled more than 200 miles from the place he was born. He never did any of the things that we usually associate with greatness. While still a young man, the tide of popular opinion turned against him. His friends left him. One denied him. Another betrayed him in the hands of his enemies. He went through the mockery of a trial and was nailed to a cross between 2 thieves. When dead, he was laid in a borrowed grave through the pity of a friend. Looking over the nearly 2,000 years that have come and gone since his death, he is still the central figure of this human race. When we try to sum up his influence, we can say that all the armies that have ever marched, all the navies that have ever been built, all the parliaments that have ever sat, all the leaders and kings that have ever reigned, put together, have not affected the life of man upon this earth as powerfully as has that one solitary life.
Pretty powerful stuff. And that was written almost 100 years ago. So let's go back to that. All right, so that leads us into the Nativity, or we know as the Nativity as Christmas, or the birth of our Lord. The Nativity occurs each year during the liturgical season of Christmas. We celebrate that Jesus Christ is true God and true man. He is fully divine and fully human. If you're recognizing this, it's coming from the Creed. And the Church uses the term hypostatic union to name this mystery of faith. It's important to understand why God became human, that Jesus is the fullest expression of humanity that we possibly have. And we know that we've heard of the Nativity, and we know the story through the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. And the Gospel of Mark just jumps right into Jesus as an adult. But the Gospel of John puts a different spin on things. I'd like you to check this out and to listen to this. This is called the prologue of John's Gospel.
A dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. We will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
So that's the beginning of John's Gospel. Pretty powerful stuff. And that's the very beginning of it. And we know when we hear of who Jesus is, that we use him as he is Emmanuel. He is God with us. He is ever present. But there's a big word here, and this word is proto-evangelium, and we're saying, what does that mean? Well, proto is a Greek word meaning first, and evangelium is of the Greek word meaning gospel. So the first gospel. So we see the first promise of salvation is found in Genesis 3:15, and I have that right below. You don't have to write it, you just have to be familiar with it. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel. Now in the New Testament, Mary becomes the new Eve, the new mother of the living, the mother of the whole Christ, or of the church. And we know that because Jesus on the cross says, "Behold your mother. Mother, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." And that is going to be the end of part 1. So I look forward to seeing you again, and I want to thank you for being with us today. And if you have any questions, please remember to comment, like, subscribe, and remember to verify. Priest Verify. I'll see you in part 2.